Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about some of the books that I read in April. In April I read a total of 11 books. I'm not going to be talking to you about all of them because there were a couple of DNFs in there and I don't feel like talking about them, especially because I didn't read as much as I should have to be able to pass comment on them. The first book that I want to talk to you about is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is a sequel to Ready Player 1, which is a #1 bestseller and was adapted into a really poor adaptation movie. And yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I just felt like they completely abandoned all of the character development and arcs that you had in the last book and kind of made everyone super unlikable and really just kind of abandoned everything that happened in the last book. So I thought it was an interesting idea, but I really didn't like what they did with the characters. But I thought the plot was interesting and the ending was interesting, but yeah, bit of a weak sequel for me. I don't really want another book. Ready Player 1 is kind of one of my favourite books of all time, so I will happily keep reading that one and never read this one again, probably. Next, I read Saga Volume 1 and 2. So the first volume of Saga was gifted to me from my wish list. It was an anonymous gift, I think, so not sure who gave it to me, but I have been thinking about reading these for a really long time because a lot of people have been talking about them, about how amazing and unique they are, and I've been getting into graphic novels a lot, so I thought, why not give Saga a go and put it on my wish list, and someone very kindly bought it for me. Really, Maggie, now? I'm just gonna go shut the door. So I read the first Saga and I actually only gave it about 3 stars, and I think it just suffered from first book in the series kind of, what's it called? I don't remember. But you know how like often the first book in the series is one of the weakest books because it does so much world building and it's not very interesting? I felt like that was the first book, so I definitely wasn't ruling the rest of them out and I really wanted to read another book in the series to see if I would like it. And then I read Saga Volume 2, which I bought for myself, and I loved it. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. It is really good and it really gets you into the story more and it really picks up. So yeah, definitely if you're not sure about the first volume of Saga, go and pick up the second one and see if you like it. I really can't wait to read the rest of them and I'm really excited that I'm picking them up as the series is now getting continued because it was paused in 2018 and they said they were going to take a couple of years off, and apparently they're now saying another one's going to be released this year. So yeah, I'm really excited, can't wait to read more in this series, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who loves like sci-fi or fantasy because it's a good blend of the two. The next ones I borrowed from the lovely Books Nest because I was in a reading slump and she offered to let me borrow some of her graphic novels, and of course I did, and I picked some great ones that I really loved. The first one was Book Love by Debbie Tong. I have loved Debbie Tong's art and humour for a really long time, so I was really looking forward to giving this one a go, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really sweet and I really related to a lot of it. I didn't rate it because I felt like it's a collection of art pieces really. It doesn't like tell a continuous story or anything like that, so I felt kind of weird rating it. I really enjoyed it though, and I think if you're a good book lover, which I'm assuming you are if you're on this channel, then this is really good to read. It's a really little relatable book and it's easy to pick up, especially if you're in a reading slump. It's just lots of little comics about being a bookish person, about reading, and it's just, oh, it's so good. I found it really sweet, so I would highly recommend it. The next ones I also borrowed from Beth, and those are the Tea Dragon Society and the Tea Dragon Festival. So these are 2 in, I believe there's going to be 3, so a trilogy of graphic novels that are more aimed towards a younger audience, but they're still awesome. So they kind of tell the story of this village where there's these little dragons who grow leaves and flowers, and from those leaves and flowers you can make tea. So that's why it's the Tea Dragon Society. The first one especially is really short and sweet, and it just is a really wholesome, adorable little queer picture book, and it just, oh, I really love them. They were such a good little wholesome break, and I get the hype because the art is cute and the stories are really cute. I prefer the first one to the Tea Dragon Festival, but I think that's more because I preferred the characters in the Tea Dragon Society, and I kind of kept getting confused by all the different characters in the Tea Dragon Festival because there's more in the festival one. But yeah, I think they're great. I think I rated them 4 or 5 stars again, and yeah, I loved it. I would happily reread these over and over, so I'm putting them on my wish list, and when I get money to buy books again, I will try and buy myself copies of these because I need them. Next, I listened to the audiobook of The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This is a second-hand copy of the prequel book, and I've never actually read this copy, but it has been read before. And this is, as I said, the prequel to Throne of Glass. It is a collection of novellas which actually kind of read as one long story with like time jumps in between the novellas, and they're all from when Selena is still an assassin and before she gets captured. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting seeing a lot of the stories behind the mysterious things that happen in Throne of Glass, where, for example, she gets a favour from someone. This kind of explains why that person owes them a favour. I thought it was really great, and I enjoyed seeing what her life was like before Throne of Glass. A lot of people say to read this one before you read Throne of Glass, but I actually disagree. I would say read this afterwards, because when you read the Throne of Glass series, you get that kind of mystery element where she is owed these favours and she has all these funny quirks and you don't know the stories behind them. And I think that actually adds to the mystery of her character, and I enjoyed going back later to find out the stories behind it. So if you don't think you want to read it first, you don't have to. I think it's better reading it afterwards. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's a good, solid Sarah J Maas book. I really enjoyed it, and I think her characterization of Selena is so solid that you just can't go wrong. And the last book I want to talk to you about is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is another graphic novel. As you can tell, I've had a bit of a graphic novel month. This is a story of a boy whose brother gets shot in the streets. He then goes and gets his brother's gun and is going down the elevator in his apartment building to go and get revenge. And while he's going down the elevator, these different apparitions appear to talk to him about gun violence that they've experienced, and they're all people that he's known throughout his life. And it's told in verse, so it's poetry, and I loved it. I thought it was really interesting. I gave it 4 stars just because I didn't love the ending of it, but I thought the whole book as a whole is a solid 4.5 read. I would really recommend this if you can handle the trigger warnings, and just, yeah, it's broke my heart, and it gives such a good insight into how in some areas, especially in America, people are just constantly linked to gun violence in so many different ways throughout their entire lives, and it's just so sad. But yeah, you need to read it. Honestly, just read it. You can get a like book version of it where it's not a graphic novel, it's just a regular book but told in verse, or you can get the graphic novel version. I haven't read the verse book version, but if you love a graphic novel, this is a really great read, so I would say this is definitely worth checking out anyway. Okay, so that was a really quick wrap up, and honestly I think it was just quick because I mostly read graphic novels, so it's mostly just me squealing about how they're cute and I like them. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed hearing about what I thought. I had a pretty good reading month considering how much of a slump I was in. I definitely need to get some more graphic novels in my life because they are currently my favourite thing in the world, but they're just so expensive for how long it takes you to read them, so who knows. But yeah, that is everything. If you read anything interesting this month, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. And if you want to leave me a comment, leave me a little dragon emoji in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!